Hey, it's Soul, and this is another Dragonflight beta video. Today we're going to talk about item level and where some of this stuff comes from. We're not going to get too far into the specifics or comparisons or things like that. We're just going to kind of go through the numbers, talk a tiny bit on how to get some of these things in case you're not familiar with how to get them, and then I'll just kind of leave it to you folks to fight it out over in the comments. So if you don't mind, like the video, subscribe for more content. And as you can see, there are kind of three pillars to choose from. I'm not including PvP in here because we're just sticking with PvE item levels. There's a dungeon pillar, there's a raid pillar, and now there is a world content pillar that includes outdoor progression, as well as professions, some of the new features that are coming in. And like I said, we're just gonna brush on those things. So world quests, real quick, we know what those are. We know how that works. We do stuff, we get things, whoop-de-doo. Now, some of these world quests will drop these things called Titan matrices. Now, these are reagents that you can use to craft or to recraft low-level crafted gear. So you'll be able to make some basic stuff that gives you an item level of 343. It's almost dungeon level, so it's not that great. But you can get better and better matrices, I'm guessing, as you go down the renown track, or maybe it's a rare quest reward, maybe something from a rare mob or something like that, that can potentially make you item level 382 gear, which is pretty much starting raid gear. It's a really good way to get started. But that's it for like the basic stuff. You can see here, when it comes to dungeons, normal dungeons will drop 346s, heroics will drop 359s, mythics will drop 372s. One cool thing that I want to point out is with this outdoor progression is some of this stuff here. Now we can see the world boss drops 395 stuff, which is kind of like heroic gear, which is cool. But there's also outdoor content that you might have seen. These things called storm assaults. Now these drop they don't drop gear, they drop currencies that you use to buy items, and you can buy a set that is that has an item level of 359. You can then use those items to, and other additional currency to buy your way up to where is it? Here we go, 385 gear. So you can get a little bit more headway in. They have some cool set bonuses to them. They're okay. They're not what I would say super great, but it's a cool thing to farm for in case you just want to fill gaps inside your gearing. Also outdoors, there is PvP war mode content going on, a very similar set to the Storm Assault stuff, but in this case, it's world PvP stuff. It starts at an item level of 366. Again, you just kill a bunch of dudes, get some currency, buy stuff. From there, you can upgrade it again by taking the original item, killing more people, getting these tokens, and then upgrading it. Now, the item levels that you get are, they don't look very impressive, 386, 385, but you get a lot of bonus item level as bonus PvP item level, as you know, so they turn out to be pretty strong. Finally, with outdoor progression stuff, there are renown rewards. As you go down each of the 4 renown tracks, some of them will be able to offer you the ability to buy some gear from them. So you can buy up to 376 item level gear or 389 item level gear. Now you got to keep in mind too that the renown requirements to buy this gear, they are not account wide. Cosmetics, yes, there is gear out there, or there are items out there that will clearly state, yes, you're able to purchase this item as long as you have reached this renown level with anyone on the account. In the case of gear though, in this case, you do need to be at that renown level on that character to be eligible to buy that gear. So for the most part, it's going to be pretty hard to get. It's only really something that you're going to be getting if, let's say if you're like a transmog collector and you really want to pick those up. But now let's talk about the good stuff. How do keys pair up against Mythic Plus? How does it pair up against professions? Because that's like the new thing in town. I already talked about the world boss. That's not a big deal. Keys start from with a Mythic 0. They start at 370 SUs. I think I've already talked about that. But Wowhead had revealed the item level brackets as well as the item levels themselves of what you're going to get when you complete a dungeon, as well as when you get whatever thing that you get from the Great Vault. So one big change that they pointed out is that instead of a maximum key level of a 15, in order to get like the best kind of gear, it's gone up to 18. So you got to climb up a little bit higher, I suppose, which may or may not be a big deal for you. Completing a plus 18 is going to get you item level 402 gear from the end of chest. And in the Great Vault, it's going to get you 418 gear. Now we'll talk about this end cap in a little bit. I at least want to talk about like the earlier stuff, the raid and the profession stuff first. So when it comes to raids, Raid Finder, normal, heroic, and mythic, they have item level ranges. So Raid Finder is going to drop a range of gear that starts at 376 from the first couple of bosses, and then it goes up by a little bit for the next couple of bosses, and then it caps off at 385 for the last couple of bosses. So it's a little bit weird, but it's, I guess the really weird part about it is that when it comes to people who purely raid, who do nothing but raid, they're not going to have like matching item level. They're going to have this mix of 376 to 385 gear. So they're going to have an average item level of whatever that average is, depending on everything that they get from that loot table. We see this item level spread of 9 item level across all 4 difficulties, from Raid Finder, normal, heroic, all the way up to mythic. But of course, because they're so special, mythic raiders are able to get access to the highest item level gear, capped out at 424. Mythic keystones are basically going to be the equivalent to profession. Don't worry, I'm going to talk about professions in a little bit too. But on top of that, inside the Vault of the Incarnates raid are going to be special bits of gear that have increased item level, sometimes increased effects, that break the usual mold. So like, for example, with, I believe, Raid Finder, the normal cap is at 385, but there's one piece in there from but there might be a boss in there that drops one piece of gear that's like at 392 or something like that. So that's why I pointed out on this chart, from the very last boss, there is a weapon that drops for a hunter that has an item level of 430. That is the highest item level thing that you're able to get from this raid, at least so far. Now let's talk about professions real quick, and then we'll start wrapping things up. There are 3 kinds of levels of crafted gear that you can make. There is the base. There's the base gear, which has an item level of 382 to 392. That depends on the quality of the crafter, or the quality of the materials that you're using to make this gear. Heroic, and then it goes up to heroic, and then it goes up to, and then finally mythic. Now we're pretty much here. We're pretty much here at the end. And this is kind of where we're at. This is what the WoW team has set up. They're setting something up where basically Mythic Plus item level is going to be the equivalent of professions when it comes to straight item level. It's going to be kind of an average. Now, remember, it's very important to note, just like the other difficulties, Mythic is also not exactly going to be, oh, everyone's going to be 424. It's going to be an average of all the gear that they get from 415 to 424. So I guess the best way to gear, kind of, sort of, is to, have a bunch of mythic gear, because you can get higher and higher item level, higher than anything else. But when it comes to certain pieces that come from the earlier bosses that drop at 415, forget those. You want to go for 418 gear. So then you are going to be, if you want to get like the maximum item level, you're going to be either crafting gear or you're going to be farming keys. Kind of weird, kind of different, but that's pretty much all I've got. And so I'd love to hear what you folks think about it. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Do you think this should change? Do you think this is fair between the different disciplines of PvE content or not? So I'd love to hear from you. If you don't mind, like the video and so on and so forth. And I'll see you guys next time. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.